We are starting our session. It's IPS work with smart health links, and it's presented by Matthew Rahn, Director, Standards Division of the ONC of the USA. So please, Matthew.
Awesome. I think you need these, right, Diego? Thanks. Let's see. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. I've got my ONC plugs back there to let me know I'm doing all right. Geez, whoever has to follow the person that's just sang opera, like, come on. Like, what did I do? Like, that was amazing. I know he's not here anymore, but that was, oh, there he is. It's like, come on. You could have waited till the next presentation, right? Yeah, as Diego said, my name is Matt Rahn. I'm the Director of the Standards Division at the Office of National Coordinator for Health IT in the US. My team manages a few different projects around mostly the US core data for interoperability, the standards version advancement process, and then all of the work we do with HL7, specifically with work groups, and we have cooperative agreements where we focus on some of the specific infrastructure work for fire and CCDA and other related HL7 standards. Very excited to be here. I want to thank the Firely team and the HL7 team for putting this on. This is one of my favorite conferences, and I tell all of our team that they should come to this one for sure. So I appreciate having me here. I'm going to talk a little bit about IPS and the Global Digital Health Partnership, some origins of the QR codes for health around Smart Health Links work, and then talk a little bit about next steps and the ballot that's going on that will happen in September, but some of the work we're doing now to get to September to do the ballot, with hopefully publishing a version of Smart Health Links and cards by the end of the year. In a few slides, I have a little bit of a surprise, so just wait for that. That'll keep you in your seats for a few minutes. But essentially, what is the International Patient Summary? It's a patient summary. You can see the common sections there on the right. A lot of people refer to as like PAMI, the problems, allergies, medications, immunizations, but only the first 3 are required. There's 14 sections total. And by being a summary, it's not meant to be the entire record for a patient. It's not a data dump, rather just the specific information, essential information you need for a continuity of care. It's also not crafted for specific condition or medical specialty. It's meant to be agnostic and non-exhaustive summary, but one that maintains its clinical utility. Another key concept is it's meant to be cross-border, which you can see at the bottom there, but ultimately, while there's international boundaries, that is one type of cross-border exchange. The IPS can be used across territories, provinces, organizational boundaries, states. So it's possible to have the IPS as a base for creating a domestic care summary, which is already happening around the world. Australia, Canada, Europe, they all use IPS as their base data model. And so we've been working a lot with the many different countries on this work. From our standpoint, it's just helping drive the adoption and support wherever we feel or we can provide help. So I mentioned GDHP earlier. It's a collaboration of 36 different countries, governments, territories, and multinational organizations that form to support the implementation of digital health across the world, and to work together on helping solve some of these digital health issues. As I mentioned, there's 36 different governments and agencies. WHO is also part of the GDHP, And if you want to learn more about GDHP, you can go to gdhp.health. But there's 5 different work streams on GDHP, in GDHP. One of them is, one is clinical and consumer engagement, another cybersecurity, evidence evaluation, policy environments, and for this particular work stream, interoperability. So the work of the GDHP International Patient Summary has been going on in the interoperability work stream. And so we've been working with a bunch of GDHP members that are interested in adopting IPS in their country. One thing to note is 2022 and 2023, the US was the chair of GDHP, and now it is the Netherlands, so thank you to the Netherlands for taking over. I don't know if there's anyone that's from the Netherlands government here, but I know that Firely has a big presence in the Netherlands, so we've been working very closely with them. And next week, there is a GDHP summit in Vienna where there'll be their first one leading. Sorry, my water bottle fell. The first one where they'll be leading as chair. So a lot of work going on there. So if you see here, can anyone see their country that's highlighted in purple here? There we go, I like it. All right, good, good. If your country is not highlighted in purple here, please do let me know and I'll put you in touch with the folks that can get you signed up. While much of the developed countries have been participating, it is important that low and middle income countries are involved. So the design of the IPS, and specifically what we'll talk about in a little more, this is the Smart Health Links, is meant to support countries, organizations, and patients along the spectrum of digital health adoption. Even if a region isn't able to incorporate or import machine-readable FHIR resources, the IPS with the Smart Health Links supports a simplified display of that information. So just to talk a little bit specifically about some of the work that we've been doing. It's been, when we first started, we were talking provider to provider use case, and we weren't really getting where we wanted to. It was a lot of staying in place because all the different countries have different privacy and security related concerns. And so we ultimately, in order to move forward, realized like we should start with patient-mediated exchange with the goals of advancing the standards so we can pilot and adopt it. And then later on we can move into provider to provider, which is how a lot of the countries outside of the US would be utilizing IPS. So this is an opportunity where you can learn, connect, and discuss about these activities. And we've been participating in a ton of HL7 Connect-a-thons. There's been, as recently as this past May, we were in Dallas. There was probably, I don't know if Rob can confirm, but was this the biggest attended track? Perfect, yeah. So there's tons of excitement around IPS. As I said, it was the most attended. We've been doing GDHP, what we call mini connect-a-thons. They're just 4 hours, focusing on some of the issues that each country is having, and it's very similar to a connect-a-thon, just less time. And then there's also been some IHE connect-a-thons in 2022 and 2023. LACPAS had some events. I know Canada has had some events. And just last week, I think at the IHE connect-a-thon in Italy, for HIMSS Europe, there was a lot of traction on the IPS side. So looking at some of the organizations that have helped, as you can see, there's a ton of, we have some companies on the right side that we've been in discussion with, so Microsoft, AWS, HealthKit, and this is all to kind of move to making sure folks have their data in their hands, right? So if we can get it on their phone, that would be great. In December GDHP Summit, Google actually did a proof of concept of the IPS to Smart Health Links and did a demo for the GDHP folks in London, so that was very exciting. We have ongoing talks with all the different tech companies so we're hoping to continue to push. On the left, there's active support and development, as I said, Google. Just recently, and we'll talk a little bit about this more tomorrow, but recently Epic has said that they are going to support IPS next summer, I believe. I don't know where, yeah, next summer. And so tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll plug that a little more later. We have an IPS and IPA session tomorrow. And then just as recently as a few weeks ago, Meditech just announced that they will be providing support for IPS. So very exciting. Both those both organizations have partners all around the world. So very excited about all that. Again, and thanks to, I think James is around here, maybe he's in a different one, but Smile Digital Health, very helpful with their Happy Fire server. Very excited about the work they're doing. So there's a lot of work going on. If you're not involved, please do ask me or everyone that's at this table right here that's in the front. They can help. So thank you all to those companies that have been helping us on this journey. So I'm going to give a little bit of history about some QR codes. So they go all the way back to 1994 in Japan. Developed by a Toyota subsidiary, and it was because it was a better alternative to a barcode for a few different reasons. It would carry more information. It works as multiple orientation due to the alignment boxes, and it was also free. And now it's free on every cell phone, and the first cell phone that incorporated it was in 2002. So while the QR codes did well in the 2000s and 2010s, COVID presented a significant uplift for a couple reasons. First, people had really gotten used to using them on the contactless and less printable options. You've been to a restaurant where you just use the QR code to look at the menu, and also was the opportunity for COVID vaccines becoming available. So because you needed them quick and portable way to show you were vaccinated without carrying around a printed card. So the QR code used in smart health cards did just that. And then in 2021, the UK actually first floated the idea of using a QR code to carry an IPS, even though at that time Smart Health Links wasn't available. So I talked a little bit about the Smart Health Links and Smart Health Cards, but on the left side, you have the Smart Health Cards. You can carry data in the QR code. They require specific software to decode. And so those were heavily used during COVID to cover information about vaccines. This information is in the card, can be digitally verified and signed. And on the right is the Smart Health Links. It provides a pointer to somewhere online where your data can be accessed. Your phone can read this since it's a URL, and they open the information in the browser. It won't work though if you're offline. And so since Smart Health Links points to a server, that server can send much more information than would ever fit inside of a QR code. In addition, the types of things that are inside a Smart Health Link can be a Fire bundle or something more pre-assembled and verified like a Smart Health card. So I'm going to pivot a little bit. I had some, I didn't know Dave was going to be here. ePatient Dave is in the audience, and I told him I would like him if he would come up and talk a little bit about the story that he told at our HIMSS presentation with the state of Washington and John DeMore about a woman named Casey Quinlan. But should I show the video first? Or? Sure. Okay. I don't know if anyone saw this, but there was this.
This is the first time Health IT has been on South Park.
Yeah, first time that Health IT has been on South Park. So let me see if I can get this to go. I wasn't able to check this before, but let's see if we can do this. So I'm only going to show a little bit about it, but basically it's navigating the American healthcare system as told by South Park. And then ePatient Dave is going to come up and tell a story.
Just fill out these forms.
We're gonna get better and we're gonna be strong and as healthy as can be.
I need to send you to imaging.
Let's navigate the American healthcare system.
Just fill out these forms.
I just filled them out the last place. It's so much fun to be getting it done.
I can't sign this for insurance. His original doctor needs to sign this.
We go.
I think you get the point, but it's, something that hopefully we can, solve with some of the work we're doing. Let's go. So I'm gonna let Dave talk a little bit about Casey Quinlan.
Thanks, Matt. Really, truly, we can be snarky about this, but you gotta admit, when it gets to the point where a freaking $4 trillion industry earns the contempt of South Park, all right? So the thing that gets me about this is that so many people are working so hard on doing individual pieces, but the system is a gigantic mess, and that doesn't deliver, okay? Now, this is my friend Casey Quinlan, who died 1.5 years ago. She was she wasn't just a flaming, powerful, red-haired, whiskey-drinking evangelist, but she was so effective that when she died, the British Medical Journal published a 2-page obituary about her, all right? And lots of people advocate for change, but getting traction is a different thing. And I know one thing, since I got involved with the HL7 community a few years ago, there are a lot of people who work hard on standards and they wish there would be more adoption, right? And I know most HL7 standards haven't been adopted. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It was back in 2018, 2019 that HL7, the board created a patient empowerment work group with a specific charter that the interests of the patient should be represented in everything HL7 does. And what I have found is that sometimes developers, especially smart ones, right, are particularly focused on hard problems. And meanwhile, if the consumer, the sick person, the one who has the problem for which the industry exists, if that person isn't involved in priority decisions, then you end up with a whole people working hard, solving difficult problems and stuff that doesn't trickle down to the point of care. Now, I will give you an anecdote from me at the Las Vegas working group meeting 1.5 years ago. In the Connect-a-thon, I was sitting with Abby Watson, who was doing devices stuff, and she pulled out this portable blood pressure cuff, and I put it on, and it said 188/115. And this qualifies as a blood pressure emergency, all right? And so I said, take another reading. I did, and then I used another device, and they all said, go to emergency. So I went to emergency. Abby drove me. I've got to say, everything, the place was great. I didn't have a 3-hour wait. I go through, and they're bleep gunning everything to get me all checked in, and then they hand me a freaking clipboard, now memorialized in South Park. And what was clear to me, think about this, folks, what was clear to me is, number one, so here I am basically okay. I'm not there with a baby who's desperately sick. I'm not out of it mentally myself any more than normal, and they're asking me to recall the medications and dosages, right? 5 milligrams, 20 milligrams, I don't know. Does it matter? Well, if it doesn't, then why are they asking me? No, seriously, you see how dysfunctional this is. There is a remedy, all right? Have an IPS on here. What does this have to do with Casey Quinlan? Casey Quinlan in 2009 was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, and she had just spent better part of 5 years as the caregiver, primary caregiver for each of her parents as in their final years. And when she got sick herself, she was like hyper organized and let's get this all going, let's work on this problem. And then she discovered that there was no way for the second hospital she went to know what the first hospital knew. And she got mad, and this was just part of the process of her becoming a global activist. And she finally said, "The hell with this." She didn't quite phrase it that politely, and she put it all in a Google Doc. And she took the URL, and she, just as you can see here, she created a QR code for the URL and had it tattooed on her chest, so that if she was wheeled into an emergency room, it said, if you look at it closely, "Scan before treatment." All right, now this is a social activist, right? This is somebody who really, I don't know what, puts her money where, I don't know. Anyway, it was symbolism, all right? It was symbolic. Skin is not a stable substrate, so it didn't work for more than 6 months or so. But the point is, when she would go to meetings in Scotland, Europe, America, wherever, she would dress like that, and people would say, "What's that?" And they'd be off to the races, all right? And that was what made me think we ought to have something like this. I went back to the work group meeting. I think maybe it was Rob, or maybe it was Robert Stegway. Somebody said, "Well, you know, we have a thing that is kind of what you needed to check into the emergency room." Come on, folks, could we please do this? Patients need it, and it's not just a matter of patient convenience, it's labor saving for the provider, and guess what? It's going to be more accurate data getting into the system. Thank you.
Okay, hold on. No, I gotta switch it here, sorry. Of course, when I play the video, it messes it all up. But thank you. Thank you, Dave. I'm glad you were here so you could tell that story. It's very moving, and we did a similar thing at HIMSS. It was ad hoc. Dave came up and told the story, and it went, really well. So when he was here, I was asking if he would be willing to share. So when we were talking about, what he was talking about Las Vegas was 2023 January. Fast forward to May, this past couple weeks ago, you can see Dave on the left working with Verto, which is a company in Canada, to examine how they were able to import the fire data from other servers and to make the IPS available through the Smart Health Links. And then you won't be able to see that QR code because it's pretty far away, but I'll get you one in a second that you can grab. But we'll have a few QR codes later on too. But on the right, you can see a picture of IPS from Brazil. They are also part of the GDHP, and we'd been working with them. And it was a nice surprise when they showed up at the working group meeting with basically a fully implemented IPS, which was that they're doing a proof of concept. They're experimenting with Smart Health Links to have patients be able to carry their information. And then you can see on the top, they actually just published a peer-reviewed paper with the Oxford Open Digital Health in May 2024. But tons of work was going on at the working group meeting. Very excited about the many different countries that have been participating. It's not just Canada and Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, to name a few. Lots of folks in Europe and basically all over the world. So one thing that I wanted to highlight, and we'll talk a little bit more detail tomorrow, but through the work we were doing with GDHP, we did meet on that same January Vegas Connectathon where this all went down. The state of Washington was present, and they had been using digital vaccine verification using smart health cards. And so they were very successful in their implementation. It took them about 8 weeks to develop, deploy, and test, and then they had nearly 2 million verification requests since October 2021. So at HIMSS 2023, the card that Dave was showing, they had been promoting the Smart Health Card, actual printed cards. And then they ultimately added WA Verify Plus, which includes the smart health links. But on the left, you can see the card that Dave has. Maybe Bryant has a few extra, I don't know. We'll see, but if you want to take a look, you can come up front, but it is pretty cool. And it does give all patients, regardless of socioeconomic status, an opportunity to have their data in their hand. And then when you're using a smartphone, the ability to save the data on a local device in your wallet. So it's exciting work. And as I mentioned, the smart health links, proof of concept via IPS. So they've embedded a URL and a QR code for that links to an IPS, which is the smart health IPS to a smart health links. And this is work that we've partnered with them through GDHP, and they've been doing a proof of concept for the last year or two with State of Washington, and mentioned the University of Washington has been supporting as well. So exciting work here, but this in the U.S. That's just wanted to highlight that there is work going on elsewhere, and we're just trying to push that. Hey, this works, you know. So kind of back to the QR code, the quick response codes. As mentioned, they were designed in '94, so they aren't that new. The information that you can pack in the QR code is relative to the density, so more bits, more information. If you go up to version 22 of the QR codes, you can pack a couple kilobytes into the code itself, and that's enough for a couple vaccines and a name, but it's not really sufficient for an entire summary. To have the full summary, you need to have dozens or hundreds of kilobytes for the average person, and that's why smart health links, that's why you need a smart health link. And the smart health link doesn't encode much information in the code itself. It really just tells you where you can go to get that information, and a key that is unguessable, so the link is secure without the code. So there's a series of maskings that happen in the QR codes, but the phone figures this out quickly in a couple seconds. So, and then one other interesting thing is that about the code is that its error correction is built in. So that means you can do some fun things like slap a picture on it, and it would still read it, even if it was like cut in half. You'd still be able to pull up a QR code. So this is kind of showing how it works. So this is your opportunity. You can take your phones out if you grab that QR code. What's shown there is from the University of Washington's IPS demo. I believe you're going to get Dave's health information, which he has given to us, allowed us to use. So no HIPAA violations, I promise. But on the right is the URL your phone will quickly decode. And then, so it has two parts. You can see the orange part. That's the browser where the smart health link will go. And then that's going to be where the app provides a view of the information in most cases. And then on the right is like, this is what the actual coordinates are for your actual data and the key, which makes the link unguessable. So the beauty of the Smart Health Link is that it provides URL to view the data, even if you don't know it's FHIR or has all the structure. And you can try this as on your phone right now. You pulled it up, I'm sure. And then I have a few more later on that you can look at as well. But in addition, when you're a system that's familiar with FHIR and wanting to import the data downstream system, the green part is all the information you need to do so. And with Smart Health Links, it allows you to do two different options. From a security standpoint, you can do no passcode or password needed to access the data, or you can add a passcode, but in both cases, what makes a smart link unguessable. So because it has so much randomness, it's impossible to figure it out. So here you can kind of see like the beginning of how a patient would go to accessing their sorry, I'm getting the sun's right on me, right in my face. Perfect timing. But so this is where the patient would request an IPS from the EHR or an HIE, either source system will work for the patient summary. Then the document is created at a point in time, and then the QR code is generated that provides the unique link to the generated or the patient's IPS. So then, if there was an event that happened in a cross-border scenario, the patient would then bring that to the provider, and the provider would scan that QR code. Then during the access, in order to access the IPS through the unguessable link, then the provider, which itself can be one of the security things, but if additional layers would be needed, you can use the passcode or other authorization like SMS. And then ultimately, when the provider gets that, the receiving provider would be able to view that in a few different ways. Either if they had a system that was FireAware, they'd be able to view the JSON. Oh, sorry, went fast, too fast there. As you can see on the right, the HTML, and then on the right is the bottom right is the Fire bundle. And this is a bigger view of that. So on the left, you can see the readable view via HTML, and on the right is the JSON for FireAware capable systems. So, as I mentioned earlier, Smart Health Cards and Links is currently under ballot. Mark Roberts from Levitt is leading that work, so if you have questions for him, he's right here. But just wanted to highlight that the ballot is supposed to be September 2024. If you're interested to provide feedback, it's now, right? Like, we want to make sure that this is in as good of a place as possible before it gets published by the end of the year, hopefully. Just please do participate. I think there will be opportunities before the ballot to be able to provide input, but during the ballot, please do provide input, and we'd really appreciate that. As well as, so in addition to Smart Health Links and cards, we are putting the IPS Fire IG through ballot. That's planned in September 2024, and then the IPS CDA IG as well. But as well as, in addition to that related work, there's multiple vendors that are pushing forward with support, as I mentioned, for Smart Health Links and IPS. There's a lot of IPS related work we're pushing on the Smart Health Link side. GDHP will continue to support the development of this work. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a meeting next week that we will be pushing even more, hopefully getting other countries to get involved. Tomorrow there's a session called IPA and IPS, Peanut Butter and Jelly Better Together. So the greatest name probably of any of the DevDays events, but so we'll be talking a little bit, I'll repeat some of the information I've given today, but talking a little bit about how IPA and IPS are not in competition of each other, but they actually work together like peanut butter and jelly. So please come to that. I believe it is at 1:30 tomorrow, and I think the room changed, so I don't know if it's the right room on here, but anyways, it's in the Wahova app, so please do look at that. If you have any questions, go to the Smart Health Links ballot, and then any questions I'm not able to answer, you can grab the one on the right and let me know where that takes you. I'll give you a second to grab it. Everyone have volume up on their phones, right? No, just messing. But as you can tell, there's a ton of work going on. I'll name a few folks that have been very instrumental in some of the work. So Rob Howsam's up here. John Dimore was unable to be here, but he's been super helpful. He's been working with us on GDHP and on the HL7 side as well. Dr. Karras from the state of Washington, obviously ePatient Dave, Bill Lober, University of Washington, Mark Roberts from Levitt Partners. There's a ton of different people. I'm not going to be able to name them all, but do appreciate everyone taking their time to be here today. And I'll answer questions. If there's super technical ones, I'll probably turn them to Bill over here, but yeah.
Questions?
So if I correctly understand, currently providers are not required to provide IPS to patients. Is that something you said you were pushing to?
You mean in the U.S.?
Yes.
Yeah. So in the U.S., it's not a requirement. In the U.S., we do have what we call the U.S. Core Data for Interoperability that has mostly aligned with all the different data elements that are in IPS, but it's significantly bigger. And it's built off of what the U.S. Core Implementation Guide, which isn't a one-to-one map to the IPS, but there is, we're working through figuring out how there could be compatibility, but there are other countries that are using IPS as their underlying data model, and we're helping support the movement of this because we know that this is where a lot of the countries are going. I will say we did ask in our HTI 1 post regulation for a request for information on smart health links and smart health cards. So, but at this point, we do not have any regulation in the U.S. that would require IPS or a smart health link or smart health card.
Any more questions? Over there.
Hey. I was curious in practice how do providers use their phone, or do they have like a scanner with their computer to like get the information on their work computer?
Can you say that? I can't hear you. Sorry.
Are providers able to get this onto their laptops, or do they have to look on their phones? Do most providers have a scanner, and then do hospital networks have any issues with providers like scanning random QR codes from patients from like a security perspective?
Yeah, so I don't think there's been actual implementation in a hospital yet, but like the patient would have it on their phone and bring it to them. That's the use case we've been utilizing. So yes, that they would hopefully be able to scan it. One of these guys might be able to talk a little bit more about that, but especially in the US, we haven't like actually built it into like a actual hospital system yet. I don't know if you guys have anything to add. Bill might be able to add something. I think he's going to add some to the.
I just wanted to comment that, you're absolutely right. The EHR vendors are not anxious to sort of accept a fire bundle, whether it's signed or not, and just sort of import it into their system. But the technical capability is there to do that, but I think organizationally we have to think about how to consider this information, how it gets used in the clinical process, and how it gets documented. The other comment that I wanted to make was in response to your question. You asked, are providers required to provide an IPS? And Matt's answer was, absolutely correct. However, something that's really important in the US is that healthcare organizations are required to provide electronically readable data in the form of US Core. So we can assemble an IPS from that US Core data, and that's what we're currently doing. So, thanks.
Great talk. This is, really cool. Do you see in the future, like if an EHR vendor has a smart link for a patient's data and a patient has multiple places where they have care, would they have multiple links, or is there some conceptual way that you're thinking would aggregate all the data for a patient?
I'll have Brian answer that because he's in their implementation on multiple.
So Brian Karras, Washington Department of Health. So what we've done with what we're envisioning is the solution to that multiple providers, potentially multiple different instances of either the same or different EHRs, using a TEFCA-mediated query to reach out across the healthcare ecosystem to pull down relevant FHIR bundles to populate the IPS and assemble them under the guise of a governmental official healthcare provider, in this case the Washington State Department of Health, certifying that, or verifying, as the WA Verify name implies, that this data was collected from legitimate sources and gets us a stamp of approval from government healthcare organization, so they could be shared. I think this is what's interesting about our dynamic compared to in the U.S. healthcare system, compared to some of you in the audience from other countries, is that our federal partners, the U.S. government doesn't have access to people's or permission to support people in gathering that information. So it's a state constitutional issue to help people gather their information on their behalf. So.
This whole project, so this IPS of mine that's up there was hand-coded by these people out of a Google Sheet that I posted, because I had decided for the Patient Empowerment Work Group, we have a project, an IG, Patient Requests for Corrections. So I manually copied from each of my 5 providers my condition list and my medications and my allergies. And there was about 40% difference between them. So as soon as you get an app that lets you pull everything together, you get into the question of what is reality. And then you have the problem that even when you submit a HIPAA corrections request, it takes between 6 months and never to get the change done. And while that 6 months is cooking, my doctor changes my blood pressure medication, so now even the request is obsolete. So I have a prediction that somewhere, and this is dead serious stuff, because somewhere in the future, we're going to realize that the only single source of truth can be an informed patient. Now, a problem there is that a lot of patients are not informed. All right, so this is just something to be, but don't be thinking that we all have to stop until there is certainty, because there's not going to be. And so, I mean, and anybody who's been to multiple emergency rooms knows that you hand in your information and then say, by the way, what they told you is wrong.
Hey everybody, Isaac from Epic. I just want to address some of the EHR questions. I would say first that patient deduplication is just a widely experienced daily issue right now through like existing interoperability mechanisms, that there's a number of kind of robust processes that are kind of designed to handle and identify when patient records are received that are duplicates of one another. And then just I just wanted to echo something that Matt said. A quick plug for tomorrow at 1:30 in the Johnson Great Room. We'll actually share some of our development plans for IPS, which do initially target provider-to-provider exchange. And I think that we're also going to have Jason from Meditech speaking about their plans for IPS as well. So I encourage you to come by.
We have time for one more question, if there's one more question.
Okay, thanks. Just a quick question. So from U.S. perspective, is there going to be the September ballot for the Smart House Link? Does that cover U.S. Like all the current use cases you want to? How ready of that one, like the Smart House Link balloting? Does that cover the use case that you have in mind for the moment?
Can you clarify your question? Sorry, are you saying, does it cover everything in the U.S. requirements, or?
Yeah, like the fundamental use case you want to implement for that smart house link. Balloting, for those like implementation guide, does that cover the use case you want to be there?
Yeah, so just to say, in the U.S., there's no like requirement for smart health links, but from the work that's happening with state of Washington and some of the work that's happening in other countries, that should accommodate what is being balloted in the smart health links.
Okay.
There is some other work that we're working on getting in alignment with that is happening in other countries, but ultimately we're taking input from like the Hajj use case that's in the Middle East, and then Hong Kong also has a QR code, similar type of use case. But we're trying to make sure that That's why I was making sure everyone participated in the ballot, because that's when we're able to get everything in one place, then we'll be able to, publish what hopefully everyone would be using across the world.
Okay.
We are on time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.